Hello and welcome back to our small farm. My name is Raphael and today we have another installment of my learning how to use a CNC plasma cutter series. Today we're going to move a little bit closer to why I got this machine, which is heavy equipment attachments. I have an auger for an excavator and I want to change the mount on it so that I can actually use it on a skid steer. The big benefit for me is that the skid steer I own has a vertical lift, which means I don't have to think about adjusting the stick and the boom all the time to get a very straight down hole. All the fence posts that you see here I have set with the excavator, and while they are okay, some are quite leaning a bit. And because I have to fence a lot more on the upper property, I want to do a better job. So first step for me is to take some measurements to make sure that my Fusion 360 model is right. Let me show you the auger here. So this is a Land Pride EA35. Shout out to Huber, where I originally got it from. And basically I'm going to build something similar like the mount you see here, and then, ja Turi, super. Turi here. I'm going to build something similar to the mount that exists here with those two pins. I'm actually just going to start with this pin if you want to, and then extend a similar arm down. And this mount here is going to be on a skid steer. This is going to be sitting on a skid steer mounting plate, which I have bought. So basically what I need to make sure is that I have the size of the pins, that I have the reinforcements in my model, because this here I think looks like half-inch plate, and I don't have half-inch plate right now floating around, so I'm still going to use my quarter-inch. So I need to reinforce this quite a bit. So for now, let's take some measurements, specifically the distance here, so I get that right, so I can mount this the same way. Yeah, so let's do that. Okay, inside diameter 94.5 millimeters. So I think if I take 94.5, that's probably a good measure. 31.5 for the pin. Let me actually... Alright, I think I have all the important measurements. The mount itself is going to have a diameter of 8 inches. And I need about 10 inches between the pin and the top of the barrel, which it needs to rest on. And everything else is pretty much up to me. So I'm going to switch to Fusion 360 now. The things that I haven't modeled yet are the layers I need to basically stiffen up the material, because since this is using half-inch and I am using quarter-inch, I will need to flange it together. So you can stick around while I model that quickly, and then we're going to move back up to cutting it on the fast cut CNC plasma table. So when I rotate the model, you can see on the one side I added the farm branding. I really want to get into the habit of doing that, and I think it's going to look pretty amazing when flanged on the outer side. I'm going to double up both the left and the right side of the mount so that I end up with half-inch there. Though I'm going to make this in a way that I leave an outer flange, which allows me to weld it up properly. And with that stuff done, I will add a second bridge so that I have more points to connect it to, make sure my alignments are right. And I'm also going to add the supports, the reinforcement where the pin goes, because right now the current design has a quarter-inch support just around those pinholes. So I'm going to add a quarter-inch support just around the pinholes also. Alright, so right now the fast cut CNC is just finishing its test run. This time I made sure to cut all the inside offsets first, so if I have something that has a hole, it'll be cut first so that I don't have the part itself moving when the holes are about to be cut. This here is the entirety of the mount, and I'll just tempt my luck and cut it all in one go. I have a 45 amp cartridge on the torch, so that should be fine. And well, assuming everything else goes fine, the test run looks so far great. I'll just evacuate the shop and have it go for, I guess it would take 5 minutes. Yesterday I was cutting some pieces and I had issues with the machine just suddenly stopping to move, and I figured I guess that might be some EMI. So I added some zip ties here just to make sure that those cables are always at a better distance. So I don't know, I'm very eager to see this going. I'll put you up on a stick so that you can watch, and then I'll just be going out and standing around for a few minutes while this thing is cutting. So, not as I planned. What I think happened here is that when the machine was doing its circle, the arc was lost because the metal just dropped to the bottom, and then it just wanted to continue on. So now what I have to figure out is how I can resume from this cut, which I've never had to do. So that's going to be a very interesting learning for me, figuring out how to resume that cut. And then once I figure that out, I can cut out this piece to the end and fix that for the other pieces before I actually cut them. So let me do that here in a bit, and then you'll be enabled again. This is exactly why you need learning projects, at least in my mind. So, what did happen here? I won't cut it out. I lost contact to the metal workpiece a number of times. So for example, when the machine was cutting the logo, there were loops in here. And when I had a loop, the metal it was cutting fell down, like for example also here. And then, because the metal fell down, the arc went out. That's at least what I think happened anyways. So this is totally my bad. So when I'm in sheet cam going forward, I need to take more time and pay more attention to details like this. With that being said, let's take one of these pieces and just see if it actually fits my auger properly. Okay. Okay. I think that's pretty good. This is just, so the reason why you need this is because when you travel with your skid steer, you don't want the auger to bounce around. So the only purpose of this piece is to prevent too much wobble, right? It doesn't need to close perfectly, but I think this will work just fine. So let me quickly grind over the edges and then take a look if I can hand fit the pieces. This is one side of it right now. I TIG welded the side here. I'm basically using this as a training opportunity for me because I want to learn to TIG weld, and well, it doesn't look too bad, I think. So I still need to weld around everything here, and then I have to weld the second one. And once that is welded, I will clamp them together for a second and drill out these holes so that when the pin comes in, it aligns perfectly. I don't have the drill bit for that right now because I need 1¾ inch, and those are a little bit tricky to get, but I ordered one, so once that's there I can do that. But for now, let me just continue to weld that side, and once both of them are welded, I will actually, weld the rest on it after I drilled out this stuff. So now you get to watch me a little bit TIG welding, well. Now comes the fun part of fitting this together. This is the connection to the auger. Basically, the motor will mount here, and you can see there's a pin here which connects left to right. And now the only thing that I need to do is weld it together with the roughly same distance, and I just tack it in place, and then I can see what I need to do to make it look pretty and fit better before I fit it to the plate. So now I should be able to just take this mounting pin out here, because that I don't need anymore for the moment. Simply because I know the distance is right. And now I can actually weld this piece all around, weld it from the top, and then I can put the bottom retainer plate in there. Eventually this will sit, well, you will see it in a bit anyways. So let me just weld this over and then we make progress. Alright, so I got the mounting plate out. This is 3/8 thick, I guess way too heavy plate for what I need for the auger. But anyways, this is the auger mount just placed. I still need to weld on the reinforcements here, but I have to cut pieces because, well, I lost them in the chaos. You saw that the mount already fits great, so that's not an issue at all. And I just need to test fit this before I weld it on the actual auger, body. But I will only do this in the morning because it's night outside. So while test fitting, I realized one thing, and I think you can see this in the video. This here, I made a design mistake because I didn't account for the rotation radius that this, I don't know, connection needs. And you can see here that, you know, it moves the actual thing that holds it, which means I have to bump it up, which is a little bit unfortunate because that's obviously my mistake for not doing more measurements when I designed this in the CAD software. So what I'll be doing, it won't be pretty, but I'm fairly certain it'll work. Is this. I still had some HSS lying around, and I'll just bump this up here by about the height that I need. And then the piece in the middle can actually rotate freely. Again, it's going to be quite ugly, but if it works, it works. So it's finally the time. I have finished assembling the auger mount for the skid steer. This has been sitting here for a short while. I painted it black, and as you can see here, that's the front of it. It can swing around, has something for the auger itself to rest on. So I'm going to get the skid steer and we're going to mount it and then mount the auger and see how it goes. I'm very excited because this has been sitting here for a long time. So let's mount it. I have the pin and a small shim that goes in here. So that's fine. And now I just use my superhuman strength to get the auger mounted. So I am wildly excited. Took me a second to hook it up, but this sits nicely here. As you can see, it swings this way, and once it's disconnected from the socket, it swings that way too, which is exactly what I need. So now let's hook this up to the auxiliary hydraulics and auger some test holes. I mean, wow. And look, hard to see against the sun, but it has the logo on its side. That was a great learning for me for the CNC plasma cutter, because I didn't know that I have to clean up the cutting paths before I put it in for mug-free for cutting. Now I know. I think it looks amazing. I'm really happy with this. At least to the naked eye, I think it's really hard to tell that this was fabbed up by a novice. Hopefully it holds up. We'll see. Let's put it down first so that I can connect the hydraulics. But you never know. Oh, there we see the first problem. The hoses are too short. Look at that. When I curl to cut, the hoses are too short. I can't. Alright, so this is a show blocker, unfortunately, which means next week I'll have to get longer hoses made up. So that sucks a little bit that I couldn't use this today because of the hoses. I'll be in town again this week and I'll get longer hoses made, but that'll have the usage then has to be in another video. But again, you know, it took me quite a while to weld all of this together. Big learnings for me, because I didn't expect that I had to shim this up, otherwise I would have made this leg longer. And I'm really curious to see how it holds up, because I usually use the bottom of this holder to press in the posts that I'm setting. But overall I think I'm still quite happy with the outcome. Like I said, I used leftover materials for this, otherwise I wouldn't have gone with 1/4 inch plate, which I sandwiched together, but actually 1/2 inch, which is what the other mount is made of. I'm still very happy with it. I think it looks gorgeous and I'm really eager to see if this will work nicely.